Hello everyone and welcome to The Sensible Thing. Today we're going to be looking at differentiation, which is a type of calculus, and this is for Edexcel IGCSE specifications. As far as I'm aware, it's not on any other GCSE math specification. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, differentiation is one of two branches of calculus. We've got differentiation and integration. Integration we don't need to know for GCSE. So what is differentiation? Well, it measures the rate of change, more specifically the rate of change of a function. And it's represented by two different types of notation. So we've got here dy dx. This is the most common form of notation, mostly what you'll be seeing in your exam. And then we have f dash x, which is the less common form of notation, which is still can be asked, but rather infrequently. So let's get into the general rule. So the only thing you need to know how to differentiate in GCSE is how to differentiate powers of x and constants as well. So we'll start with powers of x. So let's say I have x to the n. That is simply the derivative is going to be nx to the n minus 1. Now, you don't need to know where this comes from. You just need to accept that this is a rule and that it works. So let's just try differentiating these functions. So how I like to do it is I like to say bring the power down and minus 1 from the power, which as you can see, that's what the rule is. So x cubed, bring down the 3 to make 3x, and then 3 minus 1 is 2. So that's our derivative. And then 2x squared, bring down the 2, and we times that by the 2, which is already in front. So we have 4x. And then for this one, we're just going to need to rewrite 4 root x. And so that means we'll bring a half down, so I'll make it 2x half minus 1 is. And minus half is the same as x. Okay, and now we should look at how to differentiate a constant. Now, this is very simple. So if I have a constant, let's just say 3, for example. This works for any constant. This is the operational function of differentiation. So we're taking a derivative. So we're differentiating 3, and that is just 0. So the derivative of any constant is just 0. Now, how do we apply this to exam questions? So there are broadly two types of questions which can be asked. One is finding tangents, and more specifically the gradient of tangents. So dy dx, or the derivative, represents the gradient of the curve at the specific point. And so what a question might ask you to do is to sub in an x value to find the gradient of the curve at that very specific point. If you remember, gradient is rise over run. That's only if you're working with a sort of straight line. But if you're with a curve, then of course the gradient is going to be variable. Finding the derivative can help us know the gradient at a specific point. So let's take the derivative, knowing the power rule, which we just learnt. 3x squared plus 2x. Derivative of constant is 0. So plus 0, which we don't need that. And now the question's asked us to sub in x equals 4. So that is going to be 3 times 4 squared plus 2 times 4, which is going to be 56. And that is our gradient at the specific point. And we've answered our question there. And then broadly, the second type of thing the question could ask you to do is to find maximum and minimum points. And so what is a maximum or a minimum point? So that's when the gradient is 0 of the curve, or more specifically, dy dx, which we've learnt as the notation for the derivative, is equal to 0. So let's first find dy dx and set it equal to 0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set that equal to 0, 2x plus 3, 0, 2x equals minus 3, this equals minus 3 over 2, okay? And then we're going to take this minus 3 over 2 and we're going to sub it back into this to get our y coordinate. So if we just let x in there be minus 3 over 2, so we are going to square that, 3 times minus 3 over 2, minus 2, and we are going to get minus 17 over 4. So our coordinates are going to be minus 3 over 2, minus 17 over 4. And that is a maximum or a minimum, or as we say, a stationary point, because we're not going to determine whether it's maximum or minimum. Okay? So this is effectively the core skill behind differentiation at IGCSE level. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and let us know what you want us to cover next. Thank you.